you mentioned your son Sean a lot, and that's something that's passionate to you is the disabilities community and trying to be an advocate for them as well. Another thing that you're passionate about is kupuna,
Yeah,
and you have a show called the Kūpuna Power. And
Kūpuna
now,
Power.
now that I think about it, that's probably where I saw you first because I would be watching TV,
Oh,
like football on Sundays, whatever. And I think either before or after, I remember with Kūpuna Power would come up.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very, very grateful that, Kūpuna Power has turned into a trusted voice, if you will,
Hmm.
with the community. It started specifically, if I can recall, was 2012 or something like that, where, one of my church aunties, like we spoke earlier in the cast about, everybody's your auntie or uncle.
Hmm.
And at church, you get your aunties and uncles, and
Hmm.
you don't know that they're not your auntie or uncle
Yeah.
until you get old enough to realize that. Well, that's this auntie from church was my mother's best friend, and my mother didn't have sisters, so she was sister to my aunt, to my mother, and my mother referred to as her sister. So to me, she was auntie sister, right? And she referred to my auntie's brother as brother. So he was uncle brother and auntie sister.
That's confusing.
Yeah. So anyway, I was raised, with her, and she was a brilliant, brilliant woman. She was a teacher at Kamehameha schools. I was raised, with her around. And so a couple of weeks she didn't show up at church. And, you get, when aunties don't show up at church, my mother told me, go check on her. Well, I went to check on her. Her house was in Kalihi Valley. I found out she was scammed, and her electricity was off. She was living by candlelight. If one of those candles toppled, it would have been over.
Cool.
It was almost like manifest destiny. I get to the place. She's embarrassed, but she's happy that I showed up, right? And a victim of a very predatory, sophisticated environment scams. And I came to learn that, gee whiz, I wanted to learn about this environment.
Hmm.
Well, we extricated her from that situation because it was very, very sophisticated. The scammers actually would accompany her to the bank.
Oh, like this is real life.
This is real life.
I thought this is like people in Africa trying to call you and like telling
that too.
can you donate, whatever.
too,
Because
but
my grandma would do that all the time when I was growing up. I remember I was on the phone with some random
Oh, yeah.
person trying to give money. I was like, no, stop.
Well, the network is very sophisticated and strong, because the scam that she suffered from was from Jamaica.
Oh yeah.
And then there's
That's
a
big
really
one.
strong one I learned from in Ethiopia.
Mhm.
And it's worldwide. And then you have Kūpuna who trust,
Mhm.
and they want to help. So my aunt gave this group all her proprietary information. And so as we were trying to get her out of this stuff, she was very embarrassed. And I want to tell anybody, if you're suffering from this and you hear the sound of my voice, get help. Don't worry about it. It has nothing to do with you being anything less than trusting.
Mhm.
Okay, so I learned all of this in a very short order, right? And I pulled Auntie out of her house. We sold that house. It was a beautiful 4-bedroom, too big for her. She was only like 5'2", and it was only her. My uncle had passed away, and
Wow.
it was this big, huge home. She had been living in the living room because that's kind of like was her comfort space, and with the candles and stuff. So I took her out, put her in a condominium close to where my mom's condo was, and it was close to the church, so they could walk to the church together. Meanwhile, I went back to my office. I told my staff, let's start something called Kūpuna Power. And it's an initiative to inform our visitors, and it's not exclusive. There's a lot of great people who are doing this type of work. We want to inform our kupuna of all the resources available to them from the feds, from the state, from the counties, from the private sector. And we're going to call this initiative Kūpuna Power. We're going to empower our kupuna to ensure that the quality of life in their elder years is strong and they can take advantage of everything that's, there. So we started by doing a resource fair at the state capitol once a year. And it was designed to be during what we call the conference time. In the lifespan of a legislative session, there's the start of the session, which is from January to May. Bills are introduced, bills go through committees, the same bunch of bills move to the other house, from the Senate to the House, from the House to the Senate. The process begins again, and then it goes into the third and final process called conference committee. And both houses send representatives to the table, and they hash out the bills, the remaining bills that made it that far. This happens like in April, and then May is when the session ends. So strategically, I wanted kupuna in the capital in April. We'd have this resource fair, and then we deploy them throughout the capital, go visit offices, take these bills we want to pass, go talk to your representatives, stuff like that. We'd have them in the galleries, And this was like a senior fair with all of the resource materials that they need. They go. Kūpuna Power once a year. Then I took it to Olelo. I said, okay, I feel comfortable in front of a camera. Let's do a half-hour show. And it was the same kind of format, like what we're doing. And then McKenna Maduli.
Love her.
Yeah, McKenna. She's lovely, beautiful, smart, man. She came back from a gig in California to do news here in Hawaii. But she was on a non-compete clause, right? So she had to stay off the air for a while. And Hawaii News Now decided, go find subject matters. That was her job. Find content. She called me up. She says, Uncle, you want to do Kūpuna Power on the air? I said, shoot, let's do it. So I moved us from over to Olelo, over to Hawaii News Now. We did that for about 6 years. And that's when we started partnering up with different entities. And in 2020, Office of Elections called because we're moving the vote to vote by mail, primarily vote by mail. And the vast majority of inquiries about vote by mail was coming from Kūpuna. So they called up and they said, let's partner together because, the bigger group is Kūpuna. I said, well, stands to, the reason being the Kūpuna are used to going into the voting booth, closing the curtain, voting, seeing that ballot go in, watching it, and then getting the little tickets that, I voted. And so it was a matter of confidence. So we created a campaign of confidence. Subsequently, in the 2020 election, we broke all records. That's why I'm a little disappointed this 24 election. You talk about a dismal turnout, man, in votes. But the Kūpuna demographic is the most dependable of the vote demographic. And we're proud to say that we were a part of that. It was there before. It was just a matter of telling the Kūpuna, listen, it's okay to vote by mail.
You probably don't even know how, yeah.
I said, ask your mo'opuna, right? Everybody get on the table, talk story about who and what and how, and it might be a Thanksgiving Day beef, but
Yeah.
at least you're civically engaged, and then get your mo'opuna to engage.
Yeah.
So that's our contribution, Kūpuna Power's contribution, and to this day we're a trusted voice. And so I took Kūpuna Power off the air when I started OHA because I wanted to be clear on my time assignment required there.
Uh-huh.
And after a year, it was clear that I could do both and do some of my other special projects too. So we just started again. KITV wanted us, and Davey D and Lena, and so we do this little segment during their Island Life Live show, and then we rerun some of the other segments too.
Yeah.
And those are 30-minute segments. But the next theme that we are going to take on is digital literacy for Kūpuna.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah. But what we've done is we are partnering with this group called Tech Savvy Teens.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so we're doing like tech expos down at the different malls.
Uh-huh. I see the people, they do the Genius Bar stuff at the Apple Store where they teach people how to do so similar to that.
Similar to that.
Yeah.
And the kids, they're teenagers. And so, they get a little bit of they get a little, maybe $50 for helping. So
That's awesome, man. And they get to do something good and help the Kūpuna.
So we're happy. We're happy about where we are. We're happy about that we're able to get the brand back up. And we're constantly looking for partners who want to join with us to advance the Kūpuna Power.
Nice. How can people help? Like if they want to be a partner, if they want to support, how can they do that?
We have a website called wearekupuna.com. Yeah, we are one word. wearekupuna.com, and they can go to that website, and they can see the type of programming that we're doing, or they can see the partnerships that we have, and then there's a way to contact me, or you can contact me at the Office of Wine Affairs, and then we can find a way by which to work together.
Okay.
There's many, many different ways by which we can work together. We got the teens now. We got there's a group called the Caregiver Foundation in case people need help putting their caregiving programs together. There's a group called Give Me a Break that we work with, and Give Me a Break are caregivers, because a caregiver sometimes needs a break. So it provides a caregiver with even if it's 1 hour respite, a massage or something like that.
Yeah. That's amazing. It's so cool, all the things that you're involved with.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. And, we just continue to continue. That's pretty much
Keep
our
on
theme.
keeping on. Keep on keeping it aloha.